Hello and welcome to the Battling Barrow and a very sad waffle session. It's the continuation of my Halloween themed story based on Cubicle 7's adventure skeleton crew for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but I sort of converted it over to 5e. And then the second half is based on an adventure from DM's Guild called the Lamenting Lighthouse, being because I recently built a lighthouse and I thought it'd be a good use for that. But it all goes wrong. But before we get on to that, I need to explain about my DMing style, and it might help explain sometimes why, if you see me do things like run the Valg Society, which I run earlier on this year, which is for levels 1 to 3, while I was running it for my party, which was 6+ by then, and sort of like even Isle of Dread, which is 2 to 4, but my party was level 8 sort of by then. The reason is I adjust things. There's nothing wrong with that. I will take, if I like an adventure, I will up it to make it more suitable for my party's level, or make it a bit easier if possible, to make it playable at lower levels. And I will do this as prep work before the adventure, and sometimes I will adjust things during the session as well. So what do I mean by this? So if let's say I've got two similar encounters and we run the first one and it was just a walkover, the player, almost to the point of being boring. When I get to the second one, before the encounter happens, I've upped it, I've increased the difficulty of it, and conversely vice versa. So if the first one was too difficult, I will ease off on the second sort of encounter. I have one rule with this though: once those dice roll, whatever decision I've made, that's the encounter. I don't adjust it once the encounter is running. That's it, we're locked in. And my players know this as well. Sometimes I make a mistake, I'll make it too easy, or and the players get a nice reward because I've made it too easy, or I've made it too difficult and it's a bit of a challenge. And in this session, I made it too difficult. I forgot to adjust it. So Lamenting Lighthouse has some dread wraiths, and so I've adjusted that for my current party. Effectively, it had given it 3 attacks, 1 for each player. Here's why I went wrong on this. One of the players couldn't make it today on this session, so I should, before the session even started, 2 attacks only per player, not 1 per player. I forgot this, and ultimately it proved to be one of my players' undoing. So, but the thing is, I realised halfway through the encounter, by then I was locked in. I have my rule, and my rule is, once those dice have rolled, that is the encounter. If I'd have realised before, say, initiative was rolled, that would have been fine, that would have been okay. But okay, let's get on with the waffle. So we continue on exactly where we left off last session, and Nerafel has his green blade out at the brother Ammonhai, because there's distrust there, and Wirt has just played a joke on Walker, and Walker's thrown him downstairs to take the next shift, the next watch. We are taking, just in case you don't know, we are taking the undead to White Island, where White Island is full of high-level druids that are basically govern the afterlife. That's what it is in my version of Mystara. They are high-level druids of Osiris, and they govern the afterlife. In this case, because there are necromancers running amok, resurrecting the recent dead, they are being taken so they can have some sort of incarnation put upon them to make sure this doesn't happen. It's first watch, and this takes place between 8 PM to midnight, and it really is for one of the characters. So whilst Wirt's down there and Walker wants Wirt to do it, Walker stays with Wirt for this watch. During this watch, I have to put, it's a Halloween horror based story, so I have to pull off some jump scares. So during his watch, he thinks he sees something by the stairs, and immediately suspicious, he goes over and investigates, and it's the ship's cat that jumps out of him and runs upstairs. It's middle watch, and it's one of the new crew members, the halfling Esme, relieves Walker. Walker goes to bed. It is during the middle watch where Svetlana screams out, "Man overboard!" Now, this disturbs Walker's sleep. There's not going to be any exhaustion for the lack disturbing of sleep, but they don't, if they had lost or wanted to revive any lost hit points and hit dice, using hit dice and gain spells, they won't get that. But they won't gain a point of exhaustion for all the disturbances. So Walker's now disturbed during his watch. The middle watch occurs between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m, so it's about 2 a.m. now. And they go to investigate. Galfenworth is already up there on board, ordering crew to sort of tie a rope around them and get in and rescue this guy who is floating on water on some ship's debris. Captain Kalanus is there and sort of says he looks dead and just wants to crack on. They already have enough dead on board their ship. Walker is now up top. 2 crew are in the water dragging this person to shore. He's unconscious but breathing. He's alive. He has long matted hair with sort of shells woven into it. His clothing's tattered and his face is crusted with salt. All of a sudden one of his eyes flicks open and he begs for a drink of water. Says, "Beware the moon before falling unconscious. It is a full moon tonight." So now they think they've potentially got some sort of werewolf on. They sort of lift up his teeth just to see, and his teeth are sort of yellowed and almost fang-like. Not fangs, but fang-like, slightly pointed. So that has given some sort of extra fear. It is now, while he's up here, Walker looks out at sea, and in the distance he thinks he sees like a green glow, and the more he stares, the more he sort of thinks he can see a mist forming, and then sort of the skeletal almost remains of a ship, a ghost ship. Now, unbeknownst to the players, but we do figure this out in time, but I'll tell you, unbeknownst to the players, at this time and during this all commotion, Brother Amenhai slips past Esme, saying he needs to use the toilet. The commotion helps him here, and he slips away. The reason why is there is another new crewman called Pierre on here who he is going to go and murder, which he does. Pierre is the one responsible for killing his wife. So Brother Amenhai is a low-level cleric and decides, obviously not anymore, to take matters into his own hands. During the commotion, though, he is wounded. He cuts his arm, and he has a red handkerchief that last session he was promptly using to dab his face. Later on during the game, that handkerchief will be missing. He's used it to tie up to use as a bandage for his wound. There is a trail of blood upstairs, as where he's dragged the body and dumped it over a rail. And he also puts blood. So the rescued guy from the water, my typical waffle to jump back a bit, the rescued guy from the water with the teeth, they decide to put in the brig. The brig is in the lower part of the ship with the coffins, and they lock this guy in there because they don't trust him. They decided he might be an evil guy, thief, werewolf. They've locked him in the brig. Brother Amenhai has unlocked that door and smeared blood on the handle. So if anyone does discover there has been a murder and starts to investigate, it looks like the clue is that this new guy is the murderer. But it's not long before this fact has been discovered. The blood trail upstairs has been discovered. The crew shout out, and Walker's kind of like, "Oh, what is going on tonight?" and goes to investigate. Yeah, he finds the trail with his survival skills and his tracking skills. He finds out that it's gone upstairs and looks like something's been dumped over the rails. By now we're getting on to the morning watch. So this is Svetlana's watch, and this is between 4 and 8. Now she's using this time because, remember from the last session, one of the coffins doesn't have a body in, it has treasure. The players discovered this, but kept stum so they can have a cut of the treasure. She's using this time to open the coffin, retrieve all the treasure from it and put it in bags and smuggle it off to her husband, which is going to be rowing using another smaller ship coming up near the ship so she can get rid of it. She does this. She manages to do this without being noticed, mainly because there is a lot going on at the moment with the murder, sort of the discovery that someone's gone missing. They trace the blood back to the brig during this time, but before then, with the coffin open, the ship's cap has jumped into the coffin without Svetlana noticing, and she's now sealing the coffin just as the players and some of the other crew come down because they're following the blood trail. We are having a second cat jump scare in this horror film, which is great. So yeah, they follow the blood down. They then notice Amenhai isn't using his red handkerchief to dab his face constantly. That was a big feature. They noticed the blood on the door. They noticed the door's unlocked. They open it and the guy is still in there. Captain John Fincher is his name, by the way, just for future reference. And yes, during the full play, he is a complete rip-off of Jack Sparrow down to the model itself. Did he get out? Did he slip out? Esme and Svetlana said no one has moved in there. Esme sort of mentions that Brother Amenhai had to use the bathroom and left her doing the incense and the ceremony to keep the dead. And when this raises suspicion, they then look at him. They can see blood on his arm. Notice there's no red handkerchief. Look at his arm. Notice that it's tied round. There's a wound there. He says during the commotion he cut himself. They don't believe him, and they're about to have it out with him when there is the noise from the coffin. There's sort of scratching, and at this point I think my players are thinking this is the actual true start of it. Zombies on a ship. They tentatively open it up, swords ready, when the cat jumps out and flies upstairs. Second cat jump scare achieved. It's then upstairs. The fog is thickening outside, and there is a cry. The players notice that the boat suddenly lurches to a halt. They run upstairs. What now? What is going on now? And Captain Clannis is there, and he is like, something has jammed the rudder. There is something in the rudder that needs to be unblocked. They've got a shell phone, I forget what it's called, sending stone thing down to their, who's depth gauge they've called him, in their underwater boat. They ask him to have a look, and he can see some sort of seaweed, some thorny seaweed wrapped around the rudder. He can't get out and do it because he can only breathe underwater while he's in the boat. It's like a little bubble of water breathing, so he can't really get there. So it's down to Walker to take a water breathing potion, dive under there, and release the seaweed. As he does this, he notices from behind him a shark bumps into him, attracted by something. And so there's an instant, I think the shark gets a critical fail, and we're using Seth Skorkowski's crit and fumble table, and so on this the shark manages to, which is the weapon, sort of drops your weapon 30 foot, so the shark somehow manages to fall back 30 foot, giving Walker time to release the seaweed. But as he releases the seaweed, it comes with a corpse, the corpse of Pierre that Brother Amenhai dumped over the side. With this, Walker thinks nothing of it, but grabs hold of the corpse, tugs his safety rope, that the crew then heave him up with the corpse, and the full murder becomes about. With this, they rush down to Brother Amenhai, which they're now fully suspecting to be the murderer in this case, because the crew recognise it as Pierre. They have it out with him, and he does in fact confess pretty quickly that this guy murdered his wife, so he murdered him. It's at this stage when there's a lot of running up and down in this episode, that they suddenly come to the realization that, they still don't really understand what is bringing the dead to life Is it just a Night of the Living Dead thing where the recent dead come to life? No, it's not. It has to be a necromancer has to resurrect it, and at this point they sort of did know this, they have been told this, but they're not thinking straight. They're on panic mode now as it's escalating. There's more and more going on here. So they run back upstairs because they're like, we've just brought a corpse on board the ship. Is this going to be the time when it resurrects? Is this going to be the thing that resurrects and kicks off the horror? It's not. And then so they stow the corpse into the bilge, and it's now the forenoon watch, which is 8 to noon. And again, this is one of the characters, so Galfenwith goes down below. Up on board, this fog that has been happening gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and it has a green tinge to it. Then lightning starts up, and it is here where Walker is vindicated now, because he asked other crew members if last night they saw the ghost ship, which no one else did. But now, out of the blue, out of the fog, the green fog, comes this skeletal hull of a ghost ship. Seems to be floating feet above the water, as if the very nature of the sea itself it shuns it and is pushing it up. So it seems to be floating. The crew are in panic, shouting that it's a cursed ship of the dead. At this point, Captain Calanis is drunk in the quartermaster's cabin on rum, so he's no good, and the crew are like, what should we do? Flee, fight, or do something else, maybe parley? Now, Walker, at this time, Galfenwith doesn't really have a clue. She's down below, so Walker's left up top dealing with this, and he knows that there's no point in fighting. It's an undead ship. Their cannons are just not going to do any damage. If mortal weapons don't damage undead, then mortal cannons are not going to affect a ghost ship, and rightly so. Flee. The rate of this ship is coming towards them is unnatural. The speed it's coming towards it, it's covering hundreds of feet in seconds, faster than them, so fleeing is not an order. So parley is going to be the only way. So the ghost ship comes about, opens 20 flaps on the side, and cannons fire ghost ball cannonballs at them, just as Walker shouts out that he wants to parley. As these cannons are about to hit and devastate their ship, they fade into a foggy mist, and then he hears a voice. Now, I won't do it here because I don't like doing voices and that here. If you want to hear all that, watch the full session. I tried to base him on Return of the Dead, King of the Dead, and anyway, he sort of says, basically says, you carry the cargo of the dead belong to me, surrender them to me. And with that, sort of a skeletal rowboat comes out, and by this time Galfenwith is on top, so it's down to her. Galfenwith, Captain John Fincher is awake now. He rushes up the top here, up top deck, and looks and sort of shouts in dismay that this is the ship that sunk his vessel earlier on that night. He goes with them, and they drag brother Ammon High with them to go and parley on the ghost ship. So during this time, they learn that a bit more about the sort of immortals of Mystara. They have Nyx, who this ghost crew worship, and more intelligent undead sort of follow. And you have Orcus, which they know about, where the more chaotic undead follow, the brainless, not follow as such. The brainless undead don't follow Orcus. Orcus wants to spread the world in brainless, mindless undead to cause chaos. And also, the pirate warns them of the orb of Orcus, and I really wish they'd paid heed to that warning. And so there is backwards and forwards here. So ultimately, the deal is they have to hand over the corpses that they carry to the captain, plus one mortal soul. This was meant to be a scruple for the players, but they instantly just hand over Brother Ammon High, deciding that he's forfeited his soul anyway as a murderer. So that was easy, barely an inconvenience. With that, we're back on board the ship. Going back, they decide there's no point going to White Island now. They might as well turn around and head back to Port Blacksand. There is a large storm that actually does knock them off course. They get they're struggling to get back on course, and they realise, Captain Calanus realises they are way off course, and they're near what I call the Sagrasso Sea, which is something I'm putting just outside Seashire in the Five Shires. This is an area of tangled seaweed, that seaweed from earlier on with the fawns comes from there, and it is deadly for ships to travel through. In fact, the area, this patch of sea, is also known as the Mariner's Graveyard, because it is just full of ships that become entangled in this seaweed and rotting away. Worse than that, it's night. Normally they could use the Harborley Rock Lighthouse, but there is a problem. There's no light in it. Captain Calanus suggested that the players, being the heroes, take their boat to the island and get it lit up again. The background to this is, a few days ago there was a Dread Pirate Roberts that is in search of the Orb of Orcus. Now, the Orb of Orcus had washed up on shore at the Harborley Rock to a cave. Unbeknown to the lighthouse keepers, there's a crew of 3 there at all times. It's a lonely place, really. Unbeknownst to them, there is also a coven of sea hags down below in a barely visible rock cave, and the orb had washed up on there. Now, the orb has a property where it effectively spreads Orcus's will across. It separates the soul from the body and creates 2 undead at once. The soul becomes a dread wraith, and the physical body becomes a dread wight. Both hate each other and both want to claim the orb, and they will stop at nothing to get the orb and kill each other. So it creates 2 warring undead, and now each time someone touches the orb, it does this, so it will just spread this chaos throughout the land, pleasing Orcus. The hags become obsessed with this orb. They don't touch it or interfere with it. When you by touch, it means, what I mean by touch, you don't just touch it. It happens when you attune to it in D&D terms, 5e terms. That's when it happens. So you can touch it, you're safe to touch it, but you don't attune to it. So they study it and interfere with it and try and poke out of it, and it effectively ends up killing one, turning into an Orlip, which is an undead creature that is search for knowledge, and she effectively kills one of her sisters and then starts to haunt the island. At this time, it gets worse for the islanders. Dread Pirate Roberts crashes on board on his ship. All his crew die. This is the background to this adventure, so I'm trying to speed it up, so otherwise it's not the adventure itself. He finds the orb in the Sea Hag Cavern, attunes to it, becomes a Dread Pirate Roberts Wraith and a Dread Pirate Wight. The Wight has the orb and haunts the Sea Hag's lair. He kills the other one's been now turned into an Orlip. There's 2 left. He kills one of them, she dies, and the other one stays near the entrance of the cave. The youngest one, she's a wretch of herself. She wants to try and get rid of White. She's not too sure how. The lighthouse crew at this time are now, the Dread Pirate Wraith is now haunting the lighthouse and goes about systematically killing any living that remains and raising them from the dead. There is 2 islands, the main island and the small island. The small island has the ship's crew. They're now drowned ones. That won't matter in this adventure. The party don't go there. The bridge that connects the islands has been ruined by the boat crashing through it, so that it's difficult to get there, so I think that's why they didn't go there. And the crew members have now come back as ghasts. And it is during this chaos that our crew arrive at this island. Now, to begin with, they think it's all quiet, but really this is all going on sort of in the background as they're moving around. They tentatively explore the isle. They come to a storehouse, go in there, and they find in all pages. And I'm trying to treat this like the first Resident Evil game, where you find all these pages and you're building up. And effectively, they explore the storehouse, realise the lighthouse crew are there as ghasts, and they kill them, deal with them. And I can't remember how it happens. They're exploring the island more, and they manage to find the cave, to which they go down there. You have to watch the full long play to find out how it happens, because I don't want to think about it too much because this was a painful episode for me and for my players, I guess. They find the Sea Hag, young Sandy Sea Slick. She is quite mad, but explains enough of what happened between that and the pages. They sort of piecing together, something sinister has gone down here. They deal with the White. They get the White and kill him. Now, the White's not too much different in power rules-wise. These aren't normal Whites and Wraiths. These are special creatures. So it's based on the 5e Wraiths and Whites, but souped up. And they dealt with that quite easy. So I was fine. I was like, okay. They managed to get the Dread Orb, put it in the sack, leave the Sea Hag to... She's got a cave. That was the deal. That she wouldn't interfere with them. They wouldn't interfere with her. She can have her cave back once they've dealt with the White. She actually wants nothing to do with the Dread Orb, seeing it how it ruined one of her sisters. But here's the thing, that sister's still flying around the island and does interfere with the players as an all-lip. They don't deal with it actually. I think that's still going. I think that's still up there. But yeah. Next, also in this cave is the lighthouse lighting mechanic. It is a magical orb device that when placed into the lighthouse lights it up. Before they'd gone down here to do a typical waffle where I go back, they get Newt to, Draco the Dragon to fly to the top of the lighthouse and see if he can just use his breath to light the light. But it's a magical light, so he does it, and all that's up there is an iron basket that there's no fuel there, so it doesn't light. So nice try. They then grab this ball, take it back to the lighthouse. They've got a plan now just to light it up. Again, they're going to use Draco to put the light in place, and it sort of works. So I don't even have to enter the lighthouse, and I kind of wish at this stage I would have let that happen. But it's not before long as they're travelling back that the light gets thrown out from the top of the lighthouse and lands on the grass. Something's up there haunting it. They know they've got to go in and do it manually and dispatch the thing that's in there, which they do. So slowly but surely we work our way back up to the lighthouse, and then on the second floor they meet Dread Pirate Robert's Wraith, and he has 3 attacks, 3 life drain attacks, and I should have changed it to 2 and I didn't. And so Walker is in combat with this thing. First hit hits him, and it's not like Beck Me Wraiths, which are probably still worse than this anyway, even though I up this up, where you lose a level. You lose maximum hit points till you have a long rest. No big shakes really, as long as you don't get down to 0 maximum hit points. But each hit keeps on hitting. I've never had so much luck with my dice in any session. Normally it's the complete opposite, whereas every hit, 3 hits coming in, and he takes him down. Now, the reason I had difficulty with this is Gelfwith is spec'd for fire damage. That's all her spells are. This thing is resistant to fire damage. It means each time she hits it, it's taking half damage. It's also got all the normal immunities, rendering Newt with his poison damage pretty much useless. But he does have a magical bite that does 1 automatic hit point of damage. This will come important later on. So they're wailing away at it, slowly but surely dropping it. I think it had 150 hit points. They're slowly but surely dropping it to it. It's down to single digits, but not before Walker dies. 0 hit points. So we're on death saves. He rolls his first death save, fails. He rolls his second death save next turn, passes. So if he fails 3 times, he's dead. If he passes 3 times, he's stable. It's at this point where he's got to make his next death save, and Walker, the Wolves player, just wants clarifications on something. He hasn't rolled his dice yet. But I say, yeah, we'll go over it again. So I remind him that if you get a 20, that counts as 2 successes. Yay. But if you get 1, that counts as 2 fails, and he would be out. He rolls his dice. It's a 1. Walker passes away. the Wraith turns its attention down to Galvanwith. She doesn't have many hit points to begin with, and she takes a battering while she's fighting it. She's now locked into combat. She's got a silver dagger. She's trying to fight with it because she's gone through a lot of her spells and they're not doing much damage. Draco is poking his head in and doing fire damage, even though it's half. He's still doing it. Every little bit helps. She is almost going to go down too. She's down to her last few hit points, so basically this one turn, if she doesn't kill it in this one turn, it has 6 hit points left. If she doesn't kill it in this turn with its attacks, it's pretty much going to kill her and it's game over. Total party kill. She rolls her damage and effectively it gets to, she does 5 points of damage. I think she does 11 points of fire damage, which you half down to 5.5, and you can see me do this in the full play. I actually ask him, how would you want to round the damage, up or down? I always roll down, but if I give the players the option to pick, they can say round up 6, that's great, the thing's dead. Round down, not enough, they're dead. They're good players, they said round down, and so it has 1 hit point left. I'm like, oh, and I'm just about to move my initiative tracker back to the Wraith when Gelfenwith suddenly remembers Nuke can do 1 point of magical damage, enough to, which would damage the Wraith. They always forget about it 'cause it's 1 point. What's 1 point of damage when you're facing big monsters? So they never do this very often, but she's remembered it. There's no roll to attack, there's no save, it's just an automatic thing, which makes sense. It's 1 point of hit damage, why are we worrying about that? But it's enough to kill the Wraith. And with that, there's no time for lamenting. She puts the lighthouse back, lights it back up, goes down, gets Draco to carry Walker's body back to the ship, and that is where we are going to leave this session. But I had plans for Walker's character, so I don't normally like doing this, but there is resurrection in D&D. There's a resurrection spell. I said right at the beginning of the campaign there is only effectively 2 ways that resurrection works in my campaign. 1, an immortal. Have they met any of those yet? Possibly, but they don't know they have. 2, White Island. I'm speccing White Island to be this old afterlife island, and of course they were going there and they would have had the introductions that would have made it easier, because White Island is also very restricted and very aloof, very, you know, you don't just go there, so it's sort of locked off. And of course they were going to go there, they would have had the introductions, it would have made it easier, but of course they didn't end up going there. So I've now got to have a think about how I'm going to handle this. Yeah, I know I possibly will. It might actually play into my favour, this, because right at the beginning of the campaign last year I made a terrible mistake when it comes to money. I forgot that in 5e gold doesn't equal XP. You don't use gold for experience. So to begin with, I was giving out rewards left, right and centre, and my players have been minted for 2 years, which makes sometimes do this adventure for this reward quite pointless, because like, well, we've got a pile of gold that we're Scrooge McDucking on at night, so it could help me out there. Anyway, that is it for this very sad waffle session. Have a look at the full live play if you like, it's pretty darn cool. But that's it for this one. Until the next video guys, stay safe, take care, bye bye.